Hi, I'm Kyle Bailey. I'm here today with Beth Goldberg. Beth, we talked about your how you help people, and you help people in three primary areas: in career, in health and well-being, and then in relationships. And well, you were talking about something very interesting a minute ago about the concept of story and how that's where you always come from in helping people. Talk a little bit about what is that? What is the concept of story?
Well, the concept of story, I always begin talking to my clients about the concept of story because it is what it hinders people in reaching their ultimate goals and living their possibility and their potential.
Yeah.
So when we're young, experiences, events happen in our lives.
Sure.
Some are maybe traumatic and some may not appear to be that way. But when we're 3, 4, 5, we take that experience and we interpret it from our perspective. Mm-hmm. The only perspective that we have. So that's of a 3, 4, 5-year-old.
Sure.
And what happens is we take that interpretation and it really goes into our, first of all, we make it mean something.
Right.
And when you're 3, 4, or 5, the only thing that you can have it mean is something about you.
Right.
You don't have the rational, your brain is not developed in a way that it can, developmentally, where it can rationalize what's going on.
Sure.
So if, for example, dad leaves, mm-hmm. a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old can't consciously say, oh, the reason why my dad left is because he and my mom don't get along, because he's an alcoholic, because we can't do that. Right. But what we do say is, my dad left because I'm not blank. I'm not lovable. Right. I'm not worthy. Mm-hmm. I'm not smart enough. I mean, that's what a child does.
Yeah.
And then they take that interpretation and it goes mainly unconscious. It's like they put it in their little backpack, yeah. And then we carry that. That's the story. That's the beginning of the writing of our story.
Sure.
And we carry it with us, and so when other experiences happen to us in our lives, as we are adolescents and into adulthood, when we have a negative emotional response to something, whether it might be anger or frustration or shame or sadness, some kind of an emotional response, generally speaking, we are plugged into our story. Our story gets activated.
Right. And
that causes, of course, causes pain.
Right.
And it causes us to get stuck, to not be able to move forward. It may cause us to make decisions that are about being stuck. Those are the big decisions that are barriers to our growth and really living, in our grander selves.
Sure.
So what is important to know is that our story, again, is based on being 3, 4, 5, and there isn't truth to it.
Right.
We think it's true. We think we're unworthy. We think we're not good enough. But it's simply from our narcissistic, self-directed selves, which we are when we're that young.
Keep going. I'm going to move this over. And okay. I'm about to ask you that question, like, how does that affect me today? I'm going to shoot some from the other side.
Okay.
Okay. So how does that affect me today, in my life today? If I'm living by that story, and I'm somebody just walking life out here today but I keep finding myself get stuck, how is that happening in relation to the story?
Well, it keeps happening because we're unaware of the story. Mm-hmm. We are automatic pilots. Mm-hmm. We most of the time just go through our day fairly unconsciously. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you're driving a car, and have you ever had that happen when you're at point A and all of a sudden you get to point B and you go, how did I get here? Like, I don't remember,
Talk
And
about that
that's-
study. You said there was a study that said how many thoughts a day?
Yeah, there's a study, somebody must have, plugged somebody in with electrodes or whatever and found that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. And of course, we can't be aware of each and every one of those thoughts because we would be burned out. We wouldn't be able to, live.
Right.
But what they did find is 90-some% of those thoughts are the same thought.
Right.
So we are like, it's like having a tape and we're pressing, the tape recorder and we keep pressing the same button over and over.
Right.
And that, really is our story, right?
Sure.
That thought, whatever it is, I'm unworthy, I'm not, it really boils down to being, I'm not good enough.
Right.
In whatever other form it is. So that,
I'm going to go back over here. Keep going.
okay, so we go about our day with those unconscious thoughts really directing us, or not directing us, or really stopping us.
So if that's the way I define myself, by definition, what's coming out of me and the results I get out of my life can't get any better than that definition.
Absolutely, because that's like having a wall.
Wow.
Or that energy, that if the energy that somehow I believe that I am not worthy, that I am not adequate, that I am not good enough, that if that is my energy, then of course what I'm going to find is that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, and then you can go, see, it's true.
So tell me this, what do you love to see happen when you're coaching with somebody and you're walking them through the concept of story? What do you love to see happen what results do people get?
Well, the results are from understanding the concept of story, is that what I challenge people to do is to wake up.
Sure.
To wake up to what their story is by just becoming aware and not doing anything really other than that. So I give people an assignment, just note how many times you found yourself in your story. Don't make it wrong. Don't make it bad. Don't beat yourself up for it, because if you do those, you're in your story. So you can just count that as being in your story too. So it's really being like almost an observer self to say, it's my story. And once people can start just becoming aware of that they're in their story, then the shift can happen.
So tell me about that shift. What happens with clients? What have you seen happen with clients? Just give me a quick breakdown of what you've seen with clients when they start to see that breakthrough.
Well, when they start to see the breakthrough, and then when they start to understand that their story is not the truth, then it really empowers them to make decisions, choices that are in alignment with what their life, whatever their life goal is. So if it's somebody, it allows them to really bust through any excuses, anything that is stopping them, from moving forward, which ultimately is fear. When we're in our story, the bottom line is we're in fear, and fear stops.
Right.
So when you can go, wait a second, this is just my story, and this isn't the truth. Oh, okay, well then this is like an illusion, right? So I don't need to buy into that anymore. And that's where you can say, you can kind of bust yourself with it. So yeah, even though I'm scared to death about being recorded, I know that that's really just my story. My story that's saying somehow I'm not worthy, like I'm not capable, which is some people's story.
Sure.
That's my 3-year-old, thing that's coming out. So people can bust through once they're able to just kind of see that as what it is. They're able to make really empowering choices.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Beth. And Pete, you have a website, right? What is your website name?
It is Integrity Center for Transformation.com.
Great.
long.
That's all right. Thanks a lot.